For centuries, Earth had lived in peaceful ignorance, nestled in a distant corner of the Milky Way galaxy. The planet was relatively small and unremarkable, its inhabitants unaware of the vast and dangerous galactic empires that ruled the stars. While humanity had advanced in science and technology, their reach was confined to their own solar system. They explored space, built stations and probes, but Earth remained isolated and insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Humanity had no idea that beyond their blue skies there were powers far greater than they had ever imagined. Earth's peaceful existence had shielded it from the political struggles and wars that raged across the cosmos. To the people of Earth, their world was secure and unthreatened, a planet with rich history and culture, but unaware of the cosmic power dynamics at play beyond their reach. Their advancements were enough to give them a sense of pride in their achievements, but far from enough to prepare them for the vast galactic conflict that was about to descend upon them. Humanity was blissfully unaware of the other advanced species. Watching from afar, species with far more technological power and military might than Earth could ever fathom. The galaxy's powers, ancient, deadly, and cold, saw Earth as nothing more than a backwater planet, a primitive species with no place in the greater interstellar hierarchy. Earth was a speck on the galactic map, and the thought of its inhabitants ever rising to a position of influence was laughable to those who ruled the stars. It wasn't until the arrival of the Taranth Dominion that Earth's peaceful existence was truly shattered. The Taranth Dominion, an ancient and powerful galactic empire, had long watched humanity from the shadows. They were a race of highly intelligent, aggressive conquerors who had expanded their dominion across countless systems, enslaving or obliterating species in their path. To them, Earth was nothing more than a backward, undeveloped world, ripe for the taking. Humanity's lack of galactic awareness made them an easy target for the Taranth's insidious ambitions. The Taranth Dominion saw Earth's resources, its potential, and its strategic position in the galaxy as assets to be seized. They had long ignored the human race, deeming them insignificant and unthreatening. But now, as the Taranth Empire set its sights on Earth, they began to see an opportunity to subjugate humanity for their own gain. They would strip Earth of its natural resources, enslave its people, and use the planet as yet another conquered world in their vast empire. The Taranth Dominion's plans were ruthless, and they were executed without hesitation. They had no respect for the species they deemed as weak, viewing Earth as easy prey, one that would fall before them without resistance. The Taranth Dominion's initial assault came suddenly, without warning. In the blink of an eye, Earth was thrust into a galactic war it was utterly unprepared for. The Taranth fleet, immense in size and far more technologically advanced than anything Earth had encountered, entered Earth's atmosphere with overwhelming force. Their ships blotted out the sky, and their weapons annihilated Earth's outdated defenses within moments. Humanity had never faced an enemy of this magnitude before. The Taranth Dominion's technology was far beyond Earth's military capabilities. Earth's satellite systems, air defenses, and ground forces were obliterated almost immediately. Cities across the globe were hit by laser strikes and orbital bombardments, reducing them to ruins in a matter of hours. Earth's leaders scrambled to respond, but it was clear that their military was no match for the Taranth's superiority. The Taranth's initial strike left Earth reeling, unsure of how to react to such overwhelming force. The Taranth fleet came with the intent to crush humanity, believing that Earth would surrender without a fight. As major cities fell and military bases crumbled, it seemed as though Earth's fate was sealed. Humanity was left to scramble, unprepared and vulnerable, as the Vorath Empire's overwhelming power seemed impossible to overcome. But in the midst of devastation, something began to stir within humanity. It wasn't just fear, it was a resilience that had lain dormant for centuries, waiting to rise at the moment it was most needed. Humanity was not ready to be erased, and the resistance, though small and unorganized, was beginning to take shape. The Taranth Dominion had made a grave mistake. They thought humanity was weak, but they were about to discover just how strong humanity could be when it was forced to fight for its survival. The Taranth fleet arrived without warning, entering Earth's orbit with overwhelming force. Their massive warships loomed above the planet, darkening the skies as they deployed their advanced weapons and war machines. The first strike was brutal and decisive, a perfect display of the Taranth Dominion's superiority in both technology and military strategy. Within hours, Earth's first defenses, satellite systems, missile bases, and key military installations were obliterated. Humanity, with its outdated military equipment, was no match for the Taranth's advanced weaponry. The aliens launched a coordinated assault that targeted Earth's weak spots, starting with military bases and key cities. Plasma cannons, pulse beams, and energy bombs rained down on Earth's major strongholds, rendering them to smoldering ruins. Entire cities, such as New York, London, Tokyo, and Moscow, were reduced to rubble in seconds. The Taranth spacecraft deployed energy weapons that cut through Earth's defenses with ease, while their ground forces used high-tech war machines to crush any human resistance on the ground. The devastation was swift and comprehensive. Human military forces were utterly overwhelmed by the superior firepower of the Taranth fleet. In a matter of hours, Earth's outdated defense systems, which had once been its pride, crumbled under the Taranth's assault. The global economy, once stable, collapsed as critical infrastructure was wiped out in the blink of an eye. As the Taranth Empire's fleet moved deeper into Earth's atmosphere, the planet's fate seemed sealed. Humanity, caught in a terrible storm of destruction, was left with little hope. Earth's governments were thrown into disarray, unable to formulate an effective response. The global leadership, which had long thought Earth was far from the reach of any galactic power, was now forced to confront the reality of an alien invasion that threatened to erase their world entirely. In the wake of the Taranth strike, humanity was left reeling from the sheer scale of the attack. Earth's military forces, while brave and determined, were completely unprepared for the overwhelming firepower of the Taranth fleet. The Taranth Empire had calculated their strike carefully, knowing that humanity's defensive technology was far behind theirs. As a result, the first wave of assaults was devastating. Human forces were decimated within hours of the attack's start. The military leaders on Earth had anticipated skirmishes with distant alien races, but no one had prepared for the scale of destruction the Taranth fleet brought with it. Earth's ground troops, while showing courage, were powerless against the alien invaders. The Taranth war machines were far more advanced, moving faster, hitting harder, and outgunning anything Earth could throw at them. The Taranth Empire's massive starships, each capable of launching destructive energy blasts, tore through Earth's space defenses, and their land forces crushed any semblance of human resistance. Humanity's first major loss was not just in resources but in lives. The cities and military bases that had once been the backbone of Earth's defense were reduced to ashes, and millions of civilians perished in the onslaught. Earth's military was forced to retreat, scrambling to form new defenses against an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. The disarray in the wake of the first wave was widespread. Governments around the globe were in chaos, with local leadership being decimated and infrastructure collapsing. Communications between different countries faltered as the Vorath fleet's cyber attacks crippled Earth's ability to organize a coordinated response. The people of Earth were suddenly facing a crisis they had never dreamed of, a war with an enemy far beyond their understanding. Despite the devastation and hopelessness that initially seemed to engulf Earth, humanity refused to succumb to defeat. In the aftermath of the Taranth's first strike, a pocket of resistance began to form, fueled by humanity's unyielding spirit and desire to protect their planet. General Adam Steele, a seasoned military officer with years of combat experience, became the rallying force for Earth's resistance. Despite the overwhelming odds, General Steele had always believed in humanity's potential to overcome any adversary, and his belief in Earth's strength became the foundation of the growing rebellion. General Steele's first priority was to organize the scattered survivors and establish communication networks. With the Taranth's communication systems disrupting global infrastructure, this proved to be a monumental task. However, despite these setbacks, General Steele and his team were able to regroup and launch small-scale counterattacks using whatever resources they could muster. The first pockets of human resistance began to use guerrilla tactics, targeting Taranth supply lines, weakened fleet positions, and any vulnerable points in the aliens' operations. Unexpectedly, these guerrilla tactics began to yield results. While the Taranth forces were massive, they were not prepared for the tenacity and resilience humanity displayed. Even in the face of destruction, humanity's will to survive was unyielding. Though they were vastly outgunned and outnumbered, the resistance fighters began to make a name for themselves, launching surprise attacks on Taranth supply depots, communication hubs, and troop concentrations. Earth's military forces, though weakened, had not been completely defeated. This unexpected resistance began to send a message to the Taranth Dominion. Humanity was not as weak as they had believed. The Vorath had thought they would easily crush Earth, but now they were faced with a stubborn enemy that refused to back down. The tide of the war, though still far from turning, had begun to shift. The fight for Earth was not over. The Taranth Empire had believed that humanity would fold under the weight of their devastating assault. Earth's cities lay in ruins, and millions had perished in the initial bombardment. The Taranth's expectations were clear. Earth was to be crushed, its people enslaved, and its resources plundered. But the Taranth Empire had underestimated humanity's will to fight. Despite the devastation that swept across Earth, something remarkable began to stir among humanity. It wasn't just desperation, it was a spirit of defiance, a fire that could not be extinguished by the mere threat of annihilation. Humans from all walks of life, whether scientists, doctors, civilians, or soldiers, came together with a single goal: to resist the Taranth and protect their planet. This newfound unity was humanity's greatest weapon. As Earth's cities smoldered and its military forces scrambled to regroup, people from all corners of the globe began to form resistance groups. Civilians began to take up arms. Scientists worked tirelessly to adapt alien technology, and leaders emerged from all corners of the world to organize this fight. It was in these small pockets of resistance that humanity's true strength began to show. It wasn't the superior weapons or alien technology that would win the war. It was the human spirit. Humanity refused to be subjugated. They would not bend the knee. Their unwillingness to surrender became their greatest weapon against the Taranth Empire. At the center of this rising resistance was General Adam Steele, a man whose calm and determined leadership inspired people across the globe. General Steele had been among the first to recognize that humanity's only hope of survival was in uniting and strategizing. He was a man who had seen the brutality of war firsthand and knew what was at stake. Earth's future depended on his ability to rally the survivors and turn them into fighters. Despite facing overwhelming odds, General Steele refused to give up. His speeches became the rallying cry of the resistance, inspiring millions to join the fight. With every word, he instilled a sense of purpose and hope in humanity's heart. His words echoed across every broadcast station that was still operational, every refugee camp and every hidden military stronghold. General Steele reminded the people of Earth that they were not just fighting for their survival, they were fighting for their freedom. The resistance groups, once fragmented and disorganized, began to unite under Steele's command. With his leadership, the ragtag collection of survivors became a cohesive fighting force. General Steele was not only a military commander, he became a symbol of human resilience. As the Taranth Empire's forces continued to push forward, humanity's response became ever more coordinated and deadly. General Steele knew that Earth couldn't win by force alone. It was their unity and tactical ingenuity that would turn the tide of war. His strategic brilliance helped humanity form effective guerrilla tactics, hitting Taranth forces where they were weakest, striking at their supply lines, communication networks, and vulnerable military bases. These small victories, though not decisive, showed that humanity could not be easily defeated. As the resistance gathered steam, Earth's scientists, led by the brilliant Dr. Lena Cruz, worked tirelessly to reverse engineer the alien technology humanity had captured from the Taranth fleet. While the Taranth's technology had once seemed invincible, humanity had proven itself to be an adaptable species, able to turn adversity into an opportunity. Dr. Cruz's team, collaborating closely with the military, began to unravel the secrets of Taranth technology, discovering hidden weaknesses in their fleet's systems. The Taranth's energy shields, once considered impervious, were revealed to have vulnerabilities in their core systems. Earth's engineers began working on ways to exploit these weaknesses using the reverse-engineered tech, developing energy disruptors capable of damaging the Taranth's warships and defensive shields. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a fighting chance. These new weapons became a game-changer, allowing humanity's forces to strike back with greater force. General Steele and his forces, equipped with advanced alien weaponry, launched coordinated strikes on key Taranth supply depots, command centers, and fleet docking stations. The Taranth Empire, which had once seen Earth as an easy target, now found itself facing a much more formidable opponent. In addition to the new weaponry, Dr. Cruz's discovery about the Taranth fleet's vulnerabilities gave humanity the ability to plan tactical strikes with precision. The human resistance was no longer just fighting back blindly, they were fighting with purpose, using intelligence, strategy, and adaptation. The Taranth Empire's advantage in terms of technological superiority was being undermined by humanity's increasing tactical prowess. The glimmer of hope that had emerged from the ashes of devastation began to spread. Humanity had moved from survival mode to resistance, and now it was poised to fight back against a seemingly unstoppable foe. The Taranth Empire, once confident in their ability to crush Earth, was starting to see cracks in their seemingly invulnerable empire. Humanity, though still vastly outnumbered and outgunned, had turned the tide, and victory no longer seemed like an impossible dream. The Taranth Empire had always prided itself on its military dominance and technological superiority. Their fleet, unmatched in size and firepower, had crushed countless worlds across the galaxy. For the Taranth, the idea of Earth's defiance was laughable. They had expected easy conquest, assuming that humanity, with its primitive defenses and outdated technology, would crumble beneath the weight of their invasion. The Taranth leadership, convinced of their inevitable victory, had underestimated the resilience of the human spirit. From the moment the Taranth fleet had arrived in Earth's orbit, they saw nothing more than a backwater world, its inhabitants barely capable of defending themselves. They believed that humanity would quickly surrender, that the initial devastation would be enough to break any resistance. General Thrax, the supreme leader of the Taranth Empire's forces, dismissed humanity's guerrilla tactics and pockets of resistance as nothing more than distractions. In a meeting with his commanders, he confidently stated, "This planet's people are weak. They will soon see the futility of their defiance." His overconfidence in the Empire's ability to crush humanity led to a critical mistake, underestimating the resolve of the human race. The Taranth Empire's arrogance blinded them to the fact that humanity was not the easily subjugated species they had believed it to be. The Taranth commanders were so focused on their superiority that they failed to see the growing strength of the human resistance. What they thought was a flicker of defiance was, in reality, a fire that would ignite humanity's will to survive. The Taranth commanders, in their belief that Earth was a miserable and weak planet, underestimated the intelligence and creativity of Earth's military leaders. They viewed the human resistance as little more than a temporary nuisance, a few small-scale attacks that would ultimately falter against their superior forces. The Vorath Empire, which had been known for its ruthless campaigns of conquest, had always been able to crush the weaker species, and the Taranth thought the same would happen with Earth. General Thrax's dismissal of humanity's potential was the fatal flaw that would ultimately cost the Taranth Empire dearly. As General Adam Steele and his team of military strategists began to observe the Taranth's movements, they realized that the Taranth's arrogance had created vulnerabilities. The Taranth fleet, though advanced, was still human-made, and like any force, it had its weak spots. While the Taranth commanders believed they were untouchable, Captain Maya Hayes and her team saw opportunities to strike at the Empire's most vulnerable points. One of humanity's first victories came when General Steele launched a counterattack on a Taranth supply depot in the Outer Rim. Using their guerrilla tactics, Steele's forces infiltrated the base, using the Taranth's overconfidence against them. The Taranth fleet had assumed that Earth's resistance could not execute such sophisticated sabotage, but human ingenuity prevailed. The Taranth's supply lines were crippled, and their communications network was disrupted, causing a temporary breakdown in their ability to coordinate. The Taranth Empire had just suffered its first blow, and it came from a species they had belittled. As humanity gained momentum, the Taranth Empire began to realize that their initial assumptions about Earth were not just wrong, they were disastrous. General Thrax and his commanders began to see the ripple effect of their arrogance. Earth's forces, though still vastly outgunned, had begun to execute strategies that the Taranth had never anticipated. General Steele and his team had unlocked the secrets of reverse-engineered alien technology, allowing them to disrupt the Taranth's advanced systems and strike back with surprising precision. The Taranth leadership, once confident in their ability to destroy Earth, now faced a growing sense of uncertainty. They saw the small victories of humanity adding up, and it became clear that Earth was not as helpless as they had thought. Humanity's resilience, bolstered by their resourcefulness and adaptability, was beginning to erode the Taranth's confidence. At this critical juncture, General Thrax gathered his commanders and made a blunt admission. "It seems we have underestimated the human race. They are not the weaklings we believed them to be." It was a moment of realization that the Taranth Empire had misjudged humanity in the worst way possible. The initial shock of their invasion had given way to uncertainty, and the Taranth Dominion was starting to question whether their conquest of Earth would ever come to pass. Humanity's defiance and unexpected resistance were causing the Taranth Empire to falter. They had underestimated the human spirit, and now that mistake was costing them more than they could afford. As Earth's resistance continued to grow, the Taranth Empire was forced to acknowledge that their initial confidence might have led them into a war they could not win. The galactic balance was shifting, and Earth, once considered weak and defenseless, was proving that they would not go down without a fight. The devastating reality of the Taranth Empire's invasion had left Earth on the edge of annihilation. Humanity's initial response to the Taranth's superior firepower was chaos and confusion, but it soon became clear that Earth's only chance for survival lay in its ability to adapt and innovate. Amidst the destruction and deaths, there was a flicker of hope. Humanity's greatest strength was not just in its numbers or military might, but in its ingenuity, the ability to take what was foreign, unknown, and make it their own. Dr. Lena Cruz, a brilliant scientist and leader of Earth's research efforts, led a team of experts in the reverse engineering of the Taranth technology. She had been a key figure in humanity's initial resistance, providing valuable insights and strategies. But now, as the world stood on the brink of extinction, Dr. Cruz and her team turned their attention to the most valuable asset humanity had captured during their skirmishes with the Taranth fleet: the alien technology, the reverse engineering. Process was no easy task. The Taranth fleet's technology was far beyond anything humanity had developed, but the human spirit was not so easily beaten. Dr. Cruz and her team worked tirelessly, deciphering alien blueprints, weapon designs, and shielding mechanisms. Slowly, they began to unlock the secrets of the Taranth's advanced technology. Their first breakthrough came when they discovered how the Taranth's shields worked. By targeting the energy core that powered these defenses, Dr. Cruz's team developed energy disruptors, weapons capable of disabling the Taranth's impenetrable shields. The energy disruptors proved to be game-changing. For the first time since the Taranth's invasion, humanity had a weapon that could pierce the alien fleet's defenses. But that was just the beginning. General Adam Steele and his military leaders immediately began adapting the new technology, creating a suite of weapons and tactics that would bring humanity's guerrilla warfare to a whole new level. Earth's military, once on the brink of destruction, was now armed with the tools to fight back. The real test came when Earth's forces, armed with reverse-engineered Taranth tech, launched their first coordinated counterattack. The Taranth fleet, which had previously dominated humanity's defenses, was now faced with an opponent that knew their weaknesses. General Steele, with his deep understanding of tactical warfare, led the charge, using the energy disruptors to disable the Taranth shields and open up their warships to direct attack. The first major victory was hard-earned but significant. Humanity's forces, now equipped with Taranth technology, managed to target key Taranth ships, causing devastating damage. The Taranth commanders had thought Earth's resistance would fade away, but instead they found themselves facing a force that was adapting faster than they had anticipated. Human soldiers, once outgunned and outmanned, began using guerrilla tactics that targeted Taranth supply lines, communications hubs, and military outposts. Every victory, no matter how small, was a step toward shifting the balance of power. One of the key moments in this first victory was the destruction of a major Taranth warship, a symbol of their might that had been terrorizing Earth's remaining forces. With the disruptors taking down the Taranth shields, humanity's laser-guided artillery and targeted airstrikes proved devastating. The Taranth fleet, while still overwhelming in numbers, began to see humanity's resilience and resourcefulness turning the tide. The once invincible fleet was now under pressure. Earth's small but growing victories began to ripple across the globe, and the morale of the people soared. The resistance wasn't just surviving, it was beginning to win. While the reverse-engineered technology gave humanity a fighting chance, it was not the only reason Earth was beginning to push back against the Taranth Empire. Humanity's true strength lay in its resourcefulness, its ability to adapt, and the sheer will to survive. General Steele's leadership was a beacon of hope, but it was the entire human race, from the front lines to the scientists in the labs, who made this fight possible. General Steele, understanding that humanity could not rely solely on advanced weapons, began to incorporate tactical ingenuity into every strike. As humanity's military forces adapted, their tactics became more sophisticated. They used the landscape, urban environments, and technological ingenuity to outsmart the Taranth's overwhelming numbers. Guerrilla warfare became Earth's signature, with small groups of resistance fighters attacking strategic points in ways that the Taranth had never expected. The Taranth Empire, with all their might and arrogance, had never truly understood the human spirit. They had believed that a planet like Earth, with its limited resources and primitive technology, would collapse under their weight. But Earth's response, led by figures like General Steele and Dr. Cruz, proved them wrong. Humanity's resilience wasn't just about weapons or alien tech. It was about determination, ingenuity, and the unbreakable will to survive. As General Steele led humanity's counterattacks, his forces made strategic strikes that were not just about overpowering the Taranth fleet. They were about demonstrating that humanity would not go quietly. The Taranth fleet was no longer facing a helpless planet. They were facing a resourceful enemy who would fight to the end. With each victory, humanity proved that their strength wasn't just in their technology, but in their spirit. The Taranth had made the mistake of underestimating humanity. Now they were beginning to pay the price for that mistake. As humanity began to rally, showing unexpected resistance and strategic ingenuity, the Taranth Empire found itself in an unfamiliar situation. The once confident invaders were now facing small-scale victories by Earth's forces, and their initial belief that Earth would fall without a fight was beginning to unravel. But the Taranth were not easily deterred, and their retaliation was swift, merciless, and devastating. The Taranth Empire, shaken by the growing strength of humanity's resistance, decided to end the insurrection once and for all. The Empire's retaliation came with an overwhelming show of force. The Taranth fleet, now reinforced and enhanced with new weapons and strategies, launched a massive counterattack against Earth's defenses, targeting humanity's most vulnerable points. The City of London, Earth's main hub of resistance and military coordination, was among the first to be hit with a devastating orbital bombardment. The pulse beams from the Taranth warships melted the city's infrastructure within hours, leaving nothing but charred remnants of humanity's efforts. The Taranth Empire's advanced warships launched relentless attacks using powerful plasma, cannons, gravity bombs, and kinetic strikes to crush Earth's defenses. As humanity's resistance forces regrouped, they found themselves outgunned and outmatched by the sheer power of the Taranth's retribution. General Steele, who had been leading the counterattacks, saw his forces beginning to lose ground. Despite the reverse-engineered technology and their small victories, humanity was not prepared for such an all-out assault. The Taranth Empire's primary strategy now was to target key strategic military locations and undermine humanity's will to continue fighting. Earth's forces were stretched thin and demoralized, and the losses began to mount. Cities fell, entire battalions were decimated, and the resistance began to lose momentum. At this point, General Steele was faced with his greatest challenge yet. In the face of these overwhelming odds, Steele refused to concede. He rallied his commanders, calling for a bold and daring counteroffensive, one that could turn the tide of the war before it was too late. Earth's survival depended on it. General Steele knew that Earth's strength did not lie in conventional warfare alone. Despite the devastating losses, humanity's greatest weapon remained its resourcefulness and adaptability. With the Taranth Empire's attack now in full swing, Steele made the daring decision to launch a counteroffensive that would exploit the Taranth's vulnerabilities and give humanity a fighting chance. In a bold move, General Steele and his top advisors devised a two-pronged assault. The first strike was to target the Taranth's command ships, which were responsible for coordinating their forces. Dr. Lena Cruz, the brilliant scientist who had helped reverse engineer alien technology, had discovered a flaw in the Taranth fleet's communication systems, a small gap in their defense that humanity could exploit. By using their adapted alien tech disruptors, humanity could disable the Taranth fleet's central command, throwing their forces into disarray. The second prong of the plan was a coordinated ground assault. Earth's military forces, though battered and bruised, had been reorganized and trained in new guerrilla tactics. Using hit-and-run strikes, ambushes, and covert operations, humanity's forces would target key Taranth bases, disrupt their supply chains, and begin softening their foothold on Earth. The goal was to tie up as many Taranth forces as possible, causing chaos in their ranks while the primary strike on their command ships was carried out. General Steele also understood that this would be a risky mission, a last-ditch effort to break the Taranth's momentum and deliver a decisive blow. Humanity's best hope lay in their ability to surprise the Taranth and exploit their overconfidence. The Taranth Empire had made the mistake of assuming that their technological superiority would guarantee victory, but now they were facing a species that refused to bow down. The small victories from earlier had not been flukes. They were signs of humanity's growing strength, and Steele was ready to show the Taranth just how powerful Earth could be. The plan was put into motion, and humanity's forces launched their first major counter-offensive. As Earth's military adapted the alien technology they had reverse-engineered, their weapons became more potent. The Taranth fleet's superior technology could be countered, and humanity had just discovered how to make that happen. As general, Steele's forces prepared for the final push. The tactical brilliance that had been evident throughout the resistance came to the forefront. Humanity's resilience was not just about sheer firepower, it was about being able to outthink and outmaneuver a far stronger opponent. Tactical innovation became humanity's greatest strength. With the new weapons and strategic tactics developed by the resistance, humanity began to turn the tide. Earth's guerrilla forces used the terrain, the cities, and even the ruins of their past battles to their advantage. The Taranth Empire, which had once considered Earth an easy target, now found themselves on the defensive. The Taranth fleet, initially so powerful and overwhelming, now had to deal with the human ingenuity that had given Earth a fighting chance. Small resistance groups sprang up, using the reverse-engineered tech to disable key Taranth weapons, sabotage supply lines, and disrupt their communication systems. Humanity was reclaiming the ground that had been lost, and their resilience, both in battle and in spirit, was undeniable. While the war was far from over, Earth's military had begun to force the Taranth Empire to reconsider their initial assessment of humanity. The tide had turned, and the Taranth were starting to realize that their conquest of Earth was not as inevitable as they had once believed. After months of brutal conflict, the time had finally come for the ultimate showdown. The Taranth Empire, once confident in their ability to crush humanity, now found themselves engaged in a battle of survival. The final battle between Earth and the Taranth fleet would take place in Earth's orbit, a decisive clash that would determine the future of humanity and its place in the galaxy. General Adam Steele had led humanity's forces with steadfast resolve, but this final push would be his greatest test yet. Earth's forces, though battle-worn and outnumbered, were more determined than ever. The Taranth Empire, despite its technological advantage, had been whittled down by humanity's relentless resistance and tactical genius. In the final days, leading up to the battle, General Steele convened with his most trusted officers and scientists, strategizing their last-ditch assault on the Taranth flagship. The energy disruptors, reverse-engineered technology, and human ingenuity had given the Earth a fighting chance. but they still faced an enemy with vast firepower, and the outcome was uncertain. As the Taranth fleet positioned itself above Earth, preparing for their final push to crush humanity once and for all, Earth's resistance forces gathered in a single, unified front. The battle would be fought in the vacuum of space, among the remnants of Earth's shattered orbital defenses. It was a battle for survival, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. General Steele's plan was to infiltrate the Taranth flagship and disable their command systems, while simultaneously launching a coordinated assault on their remaining warships. The human fleet, now equipped with alien technology, was ready to strike. The Taranth had underestimated humanity's resilience, but now they would learn that Earth had more to offer than they could ever imagine. As both fleets prepared for combat, the tension was palpable. The Taranth's massive warships loomed overhead, their energy shields flashing as they powered up their weapons. On Earth's side, the human fleet, although much smaller, was fueled by determination, their ships gleaming with the hope of a new future. As the battle began, humanity's forces launched a coordinated strike using guerrilla tactics and hit-and-run maneuvers to disrupt the Taranth fleet's formations. The energy disruptors proved to be effective, cutting through the Taranth's defensive shields, leaving their warships vulnerable to the relentless attacks from Earth's forces. But Captain Maya Hayes, one of humanity's most respected and capable leaders, knew that victory would require more than just strategy. The Taranth fleet was too powerful, and humanity's final chance depended on a sacrifice that no one could afford to overlook. As General Steele led the attack from Earth's military command center, Captain Hayes was aboard the lead ship of humanity's assault fleet. The plan was simple but dangerous. Captain Hayes was to infiltrate the Taranth flagship and plant a device to disrupt their central command systems, effectively crippling their fleet from within. The device was humanity's last hope to stop the Taranth Empire, but it came with an incredible risk. Captain Hayes, knowing the risk of failure, chose to stay behind once the device was activated, knowing that her team's escape depended on it. As she activated the disruption device, she sent one final message to her team and General Steele. "This is our moment. Make it count." Captain Hayes's sacrifice was not just a military tactic, it was a symbol of humanity's resolve. Her death was the ultimate sacrifice, but it would give humanity the chance to achieve what the Taranth Empire had never imagined: victory. As the Taranth flagship began to crumble under the disruptor's effects, Captain Hayes stayed behind, ensuring that the Taranth fleet could no longer function while her team made their escape. With Captain Hayes's sacrifice, the Taranth flagship was incapacitated, and the Taranth fleet, once invincible in their arrogance, began to fall apart. Humanity's tactical brilliance and guerrilla warfare, combined with their newly acquired alien technology, had delivered a devastating blow to the once unstoppable enemy. Earth's forces, though battered and weary, pressed the advantage. The Taranth warships, now without coordination and crippled by humanity's counterattack, began to retreat. General Steele, witnessing the fruits of Captain Hayes's sacrifice, ordered the final push. Earth's forces launched a devastating offensive, taking out the remaining Taranth ships with precision strikes. The Taranth Empire, once so certain of its victory, was now facing defeat. Humanity's resilience had turned the tide of battle, and the Taranth fleet began to break apart. The final moments of the battle were a testament to humanity's willpower and determination. As the last Taranth warship fell from Earth's skies, the battle was over, and humanity had won. Captain Hayes' ultimate sacrifice became a galactic milestone, a symbol of humanity's strength in the face of overwhelming odds. Her leadership, her courage, and her selflessness were a beacon of hope to humanity and the galaxy at large. Her death, though tragic, had ensured the victory that Earth so desperately needed. The Taranth Empire, crushed by humanity's resolve, was defeated. Earth had proven that no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could suppress humanity's spirit. Earth's place in the galaxy was now undeniable, and humanity had made its mark on the stars. The Taranth Empire's defeat was not just a victory for Earth, it was a turning point in galactic history. The once insignificant planet, overlooked by the powerful empires of the cosmos, had now proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. Earth's resilience, resourcefulness, and unwavering spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity had earned the respect of the galaxy's most dominant species. The Taranth fleet, once thought invincible, lay in ruins, and humanity had emerged from the ashes of destruction stronger than ever. In the wake of Captain Hayes' sacrifice, General Steele and the remaining resistance leaders were hailed as heroes. Humanity had won the most decisive battle of its history, but their victory came at a great cost. Earth's cities were in ruins. Millions of lives had been lost, and the scars of war would last for generations. But despite the immense cost of war, Earth had proven to the galaxy that no species could underestimate its strength. The galactic community, which had once viewed humanity as weak and inconsequential, began to take notice. The Taranth Empire's fall served as a reminder to all of the galaxy's powers that even the smallest and most seemingly vulnerable species could rise up and defend themselves. Earth's reputation spread across the stars, and new alliances were forged with species who had once looked down on the human race. Humanity was no longer isolated. They were now a key player in the galactic balance of power. The Taranth Empire may have been defeated, but Earth's new role in the galaxy was only just beginning. Peace was now on the horizon, not just for Earth, but for many of the oppressed species that had long suffered under the rule of the Taranth and other galactic tyrants. Earth's victory had given hope to the downtrodden and a clear message to the galaxy. No species was too small or insignificant to resist. The alliances that humanity formed in the aftermath of the war created a strong network of interstellar cooperation. Species who had once been wary of humanity now saw them as equal partners, respected for their courage, ingenuity, and unshakable will. Together they began to rebuild a new galactic order, one based on mutual respect, freedom, and peace. Earth's legacy would live on in the alliances, the treaties, and the shared vision of a brighter future for all species. While the Taranth Empire had been defeated and Earth had earned its place among the stars, the challenges of the galaxy were far from over. The galactic community, now more united than ever, was faced with new threats, both from within and from the fringes of known space. Earth had proven itself, but the galaxy was a vast and unpredictable place, full of dangers that humanity had only begun to understand. The victory over the Taranth was a monumental achievement, but it had also opened humanity's eyes to the true complexity of galactic politics and warfare. New galactic factions began to emerge, some hostile, while others sought alliances. Captain Hayes' death had sparked a legacy of courage and leadership, but it had also left a void in Earth's leadership. Humanity would need to ensure that the spirit of unity and resilience that had carried them through the war would continue to guide them in the future. General Steele, now a hero of Earth, began to oversee the reconstruction of the human military and the establishment of diplomatic ties with other galactic powers. Humanity's next step was to ensure that Earth was never again caught off guard. The military would be reinforced but also expanded to serve as a symbol of defense and peacekeeping. Earth's newfound strength would be used not just to protect their own world, but to protect others across the galaxy. But new challenges loomed on the horizon. The Zarthar Empire, a secretive and powerful alien race, had been watching Earth's rise. While they had not yet taken action, their growing interest in Earth's power and position in the galaxy was becoming clear. The Zarthar had always prided themselves on their ability to remain hidden in the shadows, manipulating events from behind the scenes. But now they were facing a humanity that had shown it could not only survive, but also thrive. Humanity's future was no longer just about survival, it was about growth and expansion. Earth would lead a movement toward galactic peace, but they would also face new threats that would test their resolve. With their alliances growing and their military strength rising, Earth had established itself as a force to be reckoned with, but even the greatest of species could not afford to rest on their laurels. The galaxy was vast, and the future would be shaped by those brave enough to lead. As Earth stood tall, the message sent to the galaxy was clear. Humanity is no longer weak. The Taranth Empire had underestimated them, but Earth had proven its worth, surviving and defeating a powerful alien empire. Now Earth's journey into the galaxy was just beginning. Humanity's legacy was being written not just in the battles they had won, but in the alliances they had forged, the challenges they had overcome, and the bravery they had shown in the face of overwhelming odds. They had proven that the human spirit could never be extinguished. No matter how impossible the odds seemed, humanity had the strength to face down the darkest challenges. With Captain Hayes' sacrifice and the bravery of those who had stood by her, humanity had earned a place among the stars. Now they would work together to build a future where all species could live in peace, prosperity, and freedom. The Zarthar Empire and any other forces that sought to challenge humanity would soon realize that Earth had changed the rules of the game. Humanity's future was no longer uncertain. Earth was no longer the weak species it had once been. It was a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would now have to reckon with the might of humanity.